The 13th Amendment is one of the most powerful sentences ever added to the United States Constitution. It abolished slavery in the United States and changed the legal meaning of freedom forever. But to understand the 13th Amendment, we need to understand the world that made it necessary. In 1787, when the Constitution was first written, slavery was already deeply embedded in American society. Enslaved people were treated as property under the law, bought and sold, denied wages, denied education, and denied basic human rights. The Constitution did not use the word slavery directly, but it protected the institution through compromises like the Three-Fifths Compromise and the Fugitive Slave Clause. For nearly 80 years after the Constitution was ratified, slavery remained legal in many states. As the country expanded westward, every new territory raised the same explosive question: would it be free or slave? Tensions between free states and slave states intensified throughout the early 19th century. Abolitionists, both black and white, began organizing, publishing newspapers, giving speeches, and risking their lives to demand an end to slavery. Enslaved people resisted in countless ways, from everyday acts of defiance to organized rebellions. By the 1850s, political compromise was no longer holding the nation together. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 triggered the secession of Southern states, and in 1861, the Civil War began. At first, the war was officially about preserving the Union, but as the war continued, it became increasingly clear that slavery was at the center of the conflict. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation declared that enslaved people in Confederate states were free. However, it was a wartime executive order, not a constitutional amendment. It did not automatically free all enslaved people, and it could potentially be reversed after the war. That is where the 13th Amendment comes in. An amendment is a formal change or addition to the Constitution. The word amendment comes from the Latin word emendare, which means to correct or improve. In American constitutional law, amendments are numbered in the order they are ratified. So the 13th Amendment was simply the 13th change added to the Constitution, but its impact was anything but simple. In January 1865, Congress passed the 13th Amendment. It was ratified by the states in December 1865, after the Civil War had ended. The text of the amendment is only 2 sections long. The first section states that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States, except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. That exception clause would later become the subject of intense debate. The second section gives Congress the power to enforce the amendment through appropriate legislation. With those sentences, slavery was abolished nationwide. For the first time in American history, freedom from slavery was guaranteed in the Constitution itself. The 13th Amendment was the first of 3 Reconstruction Amendments. The 14th Amendment would guarantee citizenship and equal protection under the law. The 15th Amendment would prohibit denying the right to vote based on race. Together, these amendments attempted to redefine American democracy after the Civil War. But the story did not end with ratification. After the war, Southern states passed black codes designed to restrict the freedom of newly freed African Americans. Many of these laws used the criminal justice system to force black men into labor through convict leasing. Because the 13th Amendment allowed involuntary servitude as punishment for a crime, states exploited that exception. This led to a system that, in practice, often resembled slavery under a different name. Understanding the 13th Amendment requires understanding both its promise and its limitations. Legally, it ended chattel slavery. Socially and economically, the struggle for true equality continued. Over time, Congress used its enforcement power under the 13th Amendment to pass civil rights legislation. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was one of the first laws enacted under its authority. Courts have also interpreted the amendment as giving Congress the power to eliminate the badges and incidents of slavery. That phrase refers to the lingering effects and systems connected to slavery. In modern times, the 13th Amendment has been cited in cases involving human trafficking and forced labor. It remains a living part of constitutional law. The term 13th Amendment therefore represents more than a number. It represents a turning point in American legal history. It marks the moment when the Constitution shifted from protecting slavery to prohibiting it. It also reminds us that constitutional language is powerful but not self-executing. Laws must be enforced, rights must be defended, and legal systems must adapt over time.